Jeff Fielder, everybody. Good morning. So last week we introduced the concept of home groups, and 80 of you signed up to be in a home group. And we also have a group that's going to be meeting on Monday nights here at Seattle Unity. And what was interesting is I had people stand up from all the different parts of town that we lived in. And it was interesting that we are really eclectic. We are from north, south, east, west. We're from all points around the Seattle area. So it's kind of fun to see the different neighborhoods we are in. And we are beginning a group study on the book Emergence by Marx Hubbard, which is available in the bookstore. And the idea behind it is that it leads up to December 22nd, 2012, which is the big day we all hear about, which is the end of the Mayan calendar, and all the predictions and things that we've been hearing about that. The truth is that really, I don't believe there's going to be some major shift or something magical that happens on that day, but rather it's a moment where we begin to recognize that we are truly spiritual beings having a physical experience, and that we are calling forth to be less ego and more essence. We're calling to bring in more of our essence into our daily lives, and that's the purpose of the book study. So I'm actually covering the first part of the book study, which isn't going to start for 2 weeks, because next Sunday is dedicated to the African tapestry. So I wanted to do this chapter first. And I want to say a word about the tapestries, particularly for those of you who are new. We are having one made to every major religion of the world, and they take about a year to make. So this one has been in the works for about a year. So and I've seen it. It's gorgeous. So anyway, big treat next week. So in the book Emergence, the first part of it covers the idea of creating an inner sanctuary as well as an outer sanctuary. So the definition of a sanctuary is that it is a sacred place or a safe haven. And so when we come into this place, hopefully for you, it is sacred and it is safe. That it has an energy field about it that it is uplifting and blessing. We have the same kind of energy that happens in the chapel, because whenever we come together in a group, in a community, and we pray and we sing and we worship, and we lift our consciousness, it affects the atoms and the molecules of this room. And you can feel it when you walk in. You can feel it in the chapel, because we have chanting and prayer in there every Wednesday, and even more. It's almost as if there's a bubble that exists here. And when we come into the sanctuary, when we come into the sacred space, we can leave behind the world. We can leave behind our worries. And if we bring them in here, it's to bless them. Yeah? I like what Rumi said when he said, there is a field, and there is a field beyond right and wrong, and I will meet you there. That to me is a sanctuary. It is a field beyond right and wrong, left and right, whatever. It's here in this soul place. And I believe that when we practice our meditation, our writing, our music, whatever our spiritual practice may be, I believe that when we do that in our homes, that we also create a sanctuary. We also create a sacred space. I believe that when we practice every day or every week in the same place, that it purifies the atoms and the molecules of that place. And so what happens is, it's not like something magical happens where all of a sudden you sit in that place and you're boom right there in consciousness and in samadhi. But rather, I think what happens is the space welcomes you and invites you in and says, come on, sit down, connect with spirit, come on, open your heart, open your soul, let me invite you into this place. So I've shared with you a couple months ago that I remodeled one of the rooms in my house. I had a TV room that was just horrid. It was never finished. Holes in the walls and ceiling falling and all of it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to create a room that is a sanctuary for me. And I put in new floors and windows and bought bookcases, and I took all of my spiritual books, which have been scattered all over everywhere, and I put them all in one place so that they're all there. I brought all my sacred objects, my Tibetan bells and my pictures of my spiritual teachers and my incense and everything, and brought it all together in this room. And I created for myself a sanctuary. Now, I wish I could tell you that since I've created this incredible sanctuary, that I meditate 7 hours a day and that I write 4 hours a day, and I can't wait to get into that room, and that's not the truth. The truth is, I am still a procrastinator. I procrastinate like crazy, but what I will tell you is that room welcomes me. And when I come down into the downstairs to do my writing or to do my spiritual work, it's like, come on in, Karen, and it's welcoming, and it embraces me, and it invites me. And I've made a commitment not to, necessarily talk on the phone or play on the computer, do other things in that room, but to leave it for either deep conversation or for my spiritual growth. So where we're going with this is the first chapter of this book talks about the idea of sanctuary, of going into the inner sanctuary and creating for ourselves an outer sanctuary. Now, it doesn't have to be an entire room. I recognize that that's not necessarily logical for many people, but a chair could be that sanctuary, a corner of a room, a candle, something that is your place, that is your space, so that when you do your spiritual practice there, that the molecules and the atoms become energized and enlightened. So not necessarily that you're going to sit down and go, boom, I'm there, but rather, come on in, sit down, let me welcome you. So how many of you have that sacred space for yourself already? How many of you have that sanctuary? And how many of you would like to have that sanctuary? So what would that look like for you? And even if you have one, how can it be better? What would it look like? What would it feel like? And if you could just create your whole space, what would that be? I think it's fun to play with that kind of idea because we are spiritual beings having this physical experience, and it's important that we feed the soul, that we feed the spirit. And we do that by coming together in worship on Sunday and taking yoga classes and all the different things we do. But it's nice to also create that space in our home. I'd like to actually anchor this in a little bit in just sharing with someone what your sanctuary either looks like or you would like it to look like. So would you find a partner right now? And you're always free not to do this, but would you find a partner, someone near you? Just turn around and say hello. Say hello. Does anybody not have one that would like a partner? Marcia would like a partner over there. She's wearing the green. Somebody go sit with Marcia. Okay, so go ahead. You're probably already doing it. But what would your perfect sanctuary look like? And this is the Reader's Digest version. Your sanctuary. Make sure you both get a chance to speak. Let the other person speak if they haven't yet. Your sanctuary. Okay, thank your partner, and you can always finish this conversation over coffee in the library following the service. Sanctuary. So the truth is, we are spiritual beings in these bodies, moving these bodies, and we are birthing a new human. And when we look at the evolvement of humans, we can see how far we've come, even just in the last couple thousands of years. We have available to us now all the teachings of the master teachers who have ever lived on this planet. And we don't have to go off to an ashram or a monastery or a cave, although that would be very nice. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have teachers and we don't need to have community and support, because we do. I know I do much better when I have teachers. I'm much more disciplined when I have teachers. But the truth is, we have access to the essential self. We have access to the source of our being. You know, it used to be that we had to go through the medicine man or the shaman or the priest, but we have that instant access right now. And what we're looking to do over this book study over the next few weeks is to deepen that relationship that we already have that exists with the Spirit of God within. We can go straight to the source ourselves. You know, when I was raised United Church of Christ, and we had this beautiful stained glass window of Jesus with his arms open over the altar, and I loved singing, and we had a lot of Bible homework every week. I became very conversant with the Bible. But I left the church. You know, as you do, you rebel when you're 16, and I left. But I never lost my connection to God, ever. And I was always in prayer or conversation with God, always, and connecting through synchronicities and things that would happen in my life. And I remember when I was in college, someone stopped me and said, "Do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And I said, "Well, yes, I do." And he said, "But have you accepted Jesus as your Savior?" And I said, "Yes, I think I have." And he said, "Well, that's good, because if you didn't, you can't get to God. If you did, you have to accept Jesus so that you can talk to God and so that God can answer your prayers." And I said, "Well, that's weird, because I've been talking to God for years and God answers my prayers. And I didn't think to go through Jesus. I missed that or something." And the truth is, you know, we read books like Conversations with God, but we all have conversations with God. We can all have conversations. And so we want to deepen and establish that connection and really root it in, because we have that direct access and our answered prayers, and it comes to us, our prayers are answered to us through synchronicities, through silence, through intuition, through dreams, through things like that. So what is important, though, is that we create space, and that we are willing to enter the silence in order to hear and connect to the voice of God. So I want to share with you from the book of Kings, 1 Kings 19, the story of Elijah. It's also in your bulletin. So Elijah is looking for God, and the Lord said, Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. And then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. A gentle whisper. And is that not how God speaks to us many times? We would like it probably to be like an earthquake or the fire or the wind. You know, we want to have these incredible spiritual experiences that are earth-shattering, and the truth is, those do happen, but I don't know that they're the norm. I've had maybe one or two in my life, maybe a few more, but not many. Usually the experience of spirit comes as a whisper. It's very gentle. And what is a whisper? But a whisper is that feeling that you get like yeah, something's not right here. I don't know what it is, but something's not right. Or, yes, I'm being drawn to this and I don't know why, but yes, it's a yes. Or it's a dream in the night that comes and kind of outlines what's happening in my life. Or, again, a little synchronicity pops up in here and there. So the voice of God comes as a whisper. It is the still, small voice. And many times we might be looking for the drama, but it is in the ordinary, in the quiet. So I think that we create a sanctuary so we can shut off the outer noise and touch the silence. And the truth is that when we shut off the outer noise and sit down to touch the silence, that's when the real noise begins, right? The inner noise, the thoughts, they start going. I know that when I sit down to meditate, I'll be quiet. I've got my timer or I have a little sand hourglass that I got at a thrift store, so it's actually 44 minutes. It's not actually an hour. I use one of those two things. But when I sit down, one of my first thoughts is, how long am I going to sit here? How long do I have to sit here? And then my second thought might be, I wonder if my legs are going to fall asleep. How long can I sit on this cushion before my feet are numb? And maybe it'll be by the time the timer goes, but maybe it won't. And then a breath, and then silence. And then I probably should have left the door open so the cat doesn't start banging at the door. But the cat's not there, so I can breathe. And then the cat comes and starts meowing and hitting at the door, and it's like, okay, should I get up and let the cat in? No, because then that's interrupting I'll just ignore the cat. And then I forgot to pay a bill. I wonder if I should get up and pay the bill. No, silence. Oh, that email I never answered. Oh. And it goes on and on and on, and yet sometimes in those moments there's the space. And all we need do is to witness all of those thoughts that come marching through our minds and not follow them, not take the impulse to jump up and see if the cat is out there. When I look at Halloween, which is coming up, Halloween is like having our thoughts run wild. They're running around, we're dressed as zombies and wolfman and princesses and all these things, and it's like having our thoughts run wild. It gives us an opportunity to be someone else. And meditation allows us the stage for this, to have all the characters and parts of ourselves walk out onto the stage of our inner sanctuary so that we can witness what is well and good and what is dark and scary. We can witness, oh, that was a resentful thought. Oh, that was a worried thought. Oh, that was a happy thought. And just to let them go, because the truth is, you're not your thoughts. They're just passing through. James Ishmael Ford, who has been meditating for many years and studied Zen Buddhism, said one of his teachers said, you know what? Meditation is very simple. All you have to do is sit down, shut up, and pay attention. Sit down, shut up, and pay attention. He said, when I was young, I had the perfect posture. Now I use a chair. Sometimes I have to lay on the floor, but hey, I'm sitting down, and I'm shutting up, and I'm paying attention. And this is what he says about paying attention. Pay attention to our losses, our hurts, our longings, our dreams, our futures, our successes. The big, the middling, the small, all deserve our attention. All wander onto the stage that is life, play their parts, and then retire from the boards. Within silence, we begin to see this and can meet it with grace and compassion. Something magical happens as silence, attention, and prayer meet. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves on sacred territory. Then, in a heartbeat, our perception shifts from ego-centered to God-centered. So what does your sanctuary look like? What is your ideal sanctuary? As we progress through this book series, I'm going to invite you to get a journal. If you already have a journal, go buy a new journal or a spiral notebook or something. And this will be your God book. Make it your God book and bring it to church. We won't work it next Sunday, but the Sunday after. And how many of you have done morning pages with Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way? So this isn't going to be like that, because I've done that and I can't go back and read it because I whine an awful lot in those. It's recording every little thing that I'm thinking. But this is going to be different in that we ask God questions and say, what am I supposed to do, or where am I supposed to go, or whatever. I mean, but the idea is to have a running dialogue and a conversation with God, your own conversation with God, and just see what happens. Again, it's practice. We are spiritual beings in these physical bodies, and we are birthing a new human. We midwife the consciousness by creating a sanctuary that welcomes us to practice. So the more you go to that place, the more it says to you, come on in, sit down. Doesn't mean you're not going to procrastinate. Doesn't mean you're not going to go, well, maybe tomorrow. But it's there waiting for you and welcoming you in. As we let go of the outer noise. Because God was not in the wind. God was not in the earthquake. God was not in the fire. But in a gentle whisper, in the still small voice. May we have our ears opened and our inner eyes opened so that we may hear that voice. And that's our journey for the next couple of months. Bless you.